Hi, I'm Shane.
And I'm Alex.
And this is the RPM podcast.
And welcome to the 2021 season with RacePerMinute. We like to think of ourselves as your home for everything Formula One. And whether you're joining us for the first time or after having listened to or watched all of our episodes so far, we're just here to give you an introduction to the podcast for this year, a little bit about who we are and what you can expect from us.
Now, RacePerMinute is all about three main things: quality, integrity, and community. Firstly, that means we want our content to sound great, look great, and to be filled with interesting and incisive facts, chock full of stats and all the tiny little details that make this great sport what it is. We've definitely come a long way since we started back in August of last year, but we're always trying to improve. Secondly, integrity means consistency and honesty. It means that we want to bring you all the information that we verify to be the best of our ability, without pandering to all the rumours and gossip that, whilst occasionally is exciting, is often worth very little until it's officially confirmed. Also, we'll also try to make it clear when what we know to be true and what is our opinion and where our own biases are at. More on that in a bit.
Lastly, community. We started this podcast because the two of us would always have these long discussions after every single race, more or less exactly like we do with the post-race episodes, because Shane was pretty much the only person I knew that loved Formula One as much as I did.
And you were the only person I knew who loved Formula One as much as I did.
Exactly. Now, it seems strange that F1 fans are so rare in general, despite it being such a big sport. And on the odd occasion that I do see someone wearing an F1 team shirt or a cap out in public, I feel like I'm spotting some endangered animal in the wild, and I'm compelled to, stop them and ask them about their team and ask them what they think of the last race or whatever. Anyway, we wanted to start recording our discussions because we were going to be having them regardless, and use them to seek out like-minded people to share our passion for racing. Now, we always ask your opinions on our View from the Stands segment, so there's always an opportunity to get involved so that we can learn more about what you think and more about yourselves, which brings me to my next question. Shane, tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into F1 and what do you love about it?
Oh, that's an easy one. Well, let's start off with a bit about myself. I've always lived in Hampshire, which is in England for any listeners which aren't in the United Kingdom. Last year, I started a new job as a firefighter, coming from a previous career in IT. So quite a big change, two massive changes last year. I changed my job and we started this podcast, which both have turned out pretty well so far. Outside of work, I like to visit different places around the countryside and try to travel to as many different countries as possible. Unfortunately, obviously, over the last year, that's been a little bit difficult. So I'm holding out for better opportunities in the future. Right, so my earliest memory of F1 wasn't actually in this country. I was in Turkey with my family on a family holiday, and I can't remember how old I was. I think it was in 2008, and I can't be bothered to do the maths. So I think I was around 10. I can't remember exactly what race it was, but my dad was at the poolside bar ordering some drinks, and I decided to go up with him and see what he was doing, being all cool by the bar. And he started watching the TV, and there was a race on, and I started asking questions and quizzing my dad about what this racing was. And I was so surprised at how much knowledge my dad had on this sport, and the sport turned out to be Formula One. And I remember seeing Lewis Hamilton win a race in a silver. I was going to say in a silver Arrows then, but it wasn't, in a silver Mercedes with the Vodafone logo on the back. And I was absolutely just amazed at this sport. And from that point on, my dad and I always watched the Formula One on the weekend. And even from when I've left home, I've continued to watch Formula One year on, year out. So nothing's changed. And what I love about Formula One is each year I watch it, just a better appreciation of the sport I start to feel. Like, you get to understand the inter-team dynamics, the driver dynamics, the management, and how sometimes they click and they don't. The Renault and the Red Bull issues. That fascinates me. It's not just about cars going around on the track. There's so much of a story towards it. There's so much of a story with everything, and it's just, that's why I love Formula One. I could go on forever, but I just love not the politics, but just the little inter-team stories, the rivalries between teammates and drivers and teams. Everything about it. I could go on forever. But Alex, what about yourself?
So a little bit about me then. I'm a musician and audio guy. I live in Liverpool, also in the UK. My earliest memory of Formula One is watching Jacques Villeneuve win the 1997 World Championship at Jerez, where Michael Schumacher infamously tried to knock him out during an overtake, which only resulted in him knocking himself out instead. And Martin Brundle's famous commentary is like, "You hit the wrong part of him, my friend." But I used to watch all the races with my parents, who still enjoy F1 to this day, so I have them to thank for getting me into it originally. My mum actually gave me, I should have brought it here actually so I could show it, but never mind. My mum actually brought me this proper mechanical stopwatch for my most recent birthday. And she got it at the 1976 British Grand Prix at Brands Hatch, where she tells me she met James Hunt and, obviously watched the race. And so it runs in my family for sure. I used to be a big Jordan fan when I was a kid. Because I thought their cars looked cool with the yellow and when they used to have the snake on the front. And my family used to cheer on Damon Hill. We were all big Damon Hill fans. But McLaren were always a team that I admired, and I loved Mika Hakkinen growing up. So after Jordan sold to Midland in 2005 and everything that went along with that, and shortly after I stopped watching as much with my parents when I moved to the Northwest, and I guess I was pretty much a McLaren fan from then onwards. For the sport in general, Formula One to me is all about the cutting edge of racing technology and indeed car technology as a whole, extracting maximum possible performance from the powerful yet sensitive machinery, watching some of the best races in the world fight for the tiniest of margins, and right at the apex of motorsport, a perfect blend of team sport where all the members have to pull their weight, but there's also a place for great individual performances, particularly from the drivers, but also from technical personnel as well, who maybe don't get as much of a look in sometimes, but they're definitely there working hard all the time. And F1 does have, for lack of a better term, a kind of slightly elite or perhaps elitist or otherworldly kind of quality to it. And it's a character of the sport that has earned it as much criticism as praise because it's not so easy to see this kind of racing just down the park with your mates. It's not like football or tennis where you can go to the park and play it yourself. But it makes each event feel all the more important and special. And yeah, it's expensive to do and even more expensive to succeed at. But if it weren't for the level of investment, then there wouldn't be the same level of technology and spectacle. And then it wouldn't be Formula One, would it?
You've summarised that just perfectly. Our plan is to cover all the build-up of the new season, and that's including the livery reveal reactions and pre-season testing coverage coming up in the next few months, and continue to build upon and improve our post-race discussions, roundups, and other podcast episodes as the 2021 season unfolds. And of course, we'll keep you up to date with our virtual races on YouTube too. The best way to keep up with all this is to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to us. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Chromecast, and anywhere else you can think of. And also subscribe to us on YouTube too.
You can also get in touch with us on Twitter at RacePerMinute, or you can email us at info@raceperminute.com. We're also available individually on Twitter. I'm at Cottrell Music, and Shane is at Shane57F1.
One final thing. In our commitment to quality, integrity, and community, like we mentioned before, we've pulled out all the stops in terms of video, audio, and computer equipment, web presence, and more. That means it's not cheap to do this no matter how much we love doing it. That's why we've started a Patreon, where starting from £1 a month, you can help to support everything we do. We've got 3 tiers: Pit Crew, Race Engineer, and Team Principal. And we've already set up the goal of £25 a month, which we've worked out to be enough to keep things running. And in return, as well as everything we already do, we're offering access to our community Discord, shout-outs on social media, and the podcast. You've probably already seen one of our amazing patrons, Scott Hayes, who's pledged at the Team Principal tier. He gets his name on the website as well as hitting the wall of champions which appears before every video. You can too. And of course, patrons will get access to the episodes the moment they're complete.
So that just leads us to say thank you very much for being with us and welcome to Race Per Minute.